I just turned it. Okay. So, I was getting everything prepared for me to leave for a few days. This is, I did decide to take Sparky out instead of Kelly. And she is continuing to take really good care of this baby. And now has no temptation to abandon him for the purposes of breeding. So I just, it was just a call that I made just by watching the way they behaved. Sparky was still feeding Kelly all the time, but I don't think I ever really saw him feeding the baby. So it just seemed like, whereas she spends a lot of time in there and dashes in and out with food all the time. So I think in that particular pair, Kelly is the parent and Sparky is the support. So I left her in there to finish raising that baby instead of him. So I also went around with this pair. This is Hardy and Matilda baby. And this is McLeod, who I was thinking I was going to maybe give Porky one last try, but I put him in there for 24 hours, and he did his usual sit on the perch and sleep thing, and I'm just like, you know what? The bird is infertile. So we're just going to go ahead. This is Hunter. Hunter is Phantom's son from last year. He's 11 months old. He's tiny because he dealt with a lot of illnesses when he hatched and was born and didn't get enough calcium and everything else. But genetically, I have both of his parents, and they're both bigger than him. His father's a lot bigger than him. And he's part of my dilute line. He's split to dilute. But I don't have any hen to breed him to for the dilute line for another year. She isn't born yet. Or he may end up breeding one of Stratus's babies. It depends. But there's a whole year to go. And I have a shortage of viable males, so I thought, what the heck? He is, although he's split to dilute, he is normal patterned bird, and she's probably a dominant pied. She might be a clear flight pied, but because she has like one tiny little spot on her chest, so I'm not really sure. So we'll breed him and see what happens. Genetically speaking, he's a much larger bird than he actually is. And her, I don't know about. When I got her, she was in horrendous condition. She had air sac mites. She's about 2 years old. She was way underweight and everything else. And I thought, what a worthless little bird. And after going all the way through quarantine and sitting out in the big flight cage, getting exercise and eating a well-rounded diet, she's turned into a nice little bird. She only weighs about 60 grams, but 60 grams, you know, this is not tiny. And she's starting to develop much nicer feather now, too. So we'll see what these two can produce. And I trimmed them both, trimmed Vince this morning. So the other pair that's coming along and who I also trimmed Vince for this morning is, this is Laurel and Oliver. And I think they're going to do a nice little, make a nice little setup here. Oliver has fantastic feather, but he's tiny, and Laurel has a lousy feather, but she's big. So, just as always, cross it up for all the traits that I want. These guys are getting a little more and more active all the time. I think they've started to discover that they're in conflict a little bit, because Dusty is starting to be a little more active. You see him just chase Butterfield over there, and I see him kind of, they're waking up a little bit. So now I don't know. Dusty's starting to wake up like he might have something going on there. I don't know. We'll have to see. Like I said, I'm leaving town for a few days, but I'm not really worried about these guys coming to blows or anything. I think they are just waking up for the spring, and it's going to take them a while for either one of them to actually get serious. And at this particular point, Miss Crystal over here doesn't want to have anything to do with either one of them. She's playing hard to get, so nobody's going to win anytime soon here. On the other hand, look at these two. This is Matilda's daughter all the way. Matilda was just like this. Put her in a cage with a box and a man, and she's ready to go. No messing around. So these two are going to be like, okay. And actually, these two have only been together for a very short time, and they seem to be clicking very nicely. It totally... She was in there for nearly 48 hours with Porky. Completely ignored him. They've been together for about 3 hours, and already they're just starting to have big discussions about everything. And look at him. Hey, baby. Hey, baby, what you doing? It's like, stop. These two are still playing footsie. These two are still playing footsie. Oh, you see that? Look at that. Dusty's starting to come to life. 2 days ago, I would have said no way. But look at him making moves on that girl. Storm, taking care of his girl. I gotta give these guys their vegetables. I still haven't got them today. Yeah. I did not trim these guys' vents because I don't think they're anywhere near that yet. But maybe by the time I get back, there'll be some movement. But yeah, Dusty's starting to. Well, he staked a claim on the nest box first. And now he seems to be expanding his claim, and Butterfield's starting to realize, hey, yeah, nothing like a little competition. It's a good thing. Oh, see, now Butterfield's going to go look in the box. It's not your box, it's my box. Well, they may have discovered they're in competition. And that's a good thing. And look at Miss Crystal there. She says, I'm sleeping, wake me up when you guys figure it out. And there's old Rocky, all fluffed up and hooting and hollering. He is a big bird, really tall, 70 plus grams. He's a show off. I don't see a lot happening between these two yet, but Rocky's making all the noises like claiming the cage and everything, territorial stuff. So that's one way to approach it. And Kobe's making sure everybody knows whose cage he's in. His second little chick is doing just fine. We got another hen that knows how to raise 2 chicks at a time, even if one's really small. I don't know what's happening with the eggs in here. We did have a big space between these 2 chicks. See that little one laying on his back with his crop so full he can hardly move? I see 2 eggs that look, this one right, there's 3 in a row, the one on the right-hand side looks very solid, like it might hatch. The others look a little bit empty, but we'll see what happens. I'll probably miss it because I'm going to be out of town. But she's clearly, you know, a very competent mother. So, and I have a feeling that my high chick mortality had a lot to do with the competent parenting thing, because a lot of my birds have never raised a chick before. So, and it was so cold, they just didn't sit the nest well or something. But there's other factors too. So, here's Miss. See, Gray is inside the box. Pie is out here eating. Interesting. These two have an interesting dynamic. Pie is not in any big hurry. She doesn't like this weather, I can tell. So, well, that's okay. We got all the time in the world, because these pairs, except for Kelly and these 2 right here, these are the last 2 cages from the first group of 12. But the rest of these are the only pairs that I have that are really ready to go until late March, mid-March maybe, late March. April, because I have a lot of last year's chicks that are not quite 9 months old yet, and of course I'm going to let those that failed this time around rest until May. So there's no rush anymore, no trying to decide who comes in and who doesn't, because we're going to get everybody covered here. Everybody that's available at the moment. So, okay, that's about it.